And staying in the Middle East, as rebel forces stormed Syria's capital, the streets of Damascus fell eerily silent. President Bashar Al-Assad, whose family had ruled Syria for 5 decades, had vanished. His aides, military commanders, and even his family members were left in the dark. Just hours before he secretly fled to Moscow, the former Syrian president wove a web of lies, assuring his inner circle that Russian support was imminent and to stand their ground. Our next report takes you inside what in fact really happened.
On December 8, 2024, Damascus teetered on collapse. Rebel forces, having swept through Aleppo, Homs and Hama, were closing in. Syrian President Bashar Al-Assad, who was once the face of unyielding power, was nowhere to be found, and his sudden disappearance shattered what remained of Syria's crumbling regime.
Hopefully this Friday is the Friday of the greatest joy, a Friday of victory for our Muslim brothers.
However, it was an easy escape. His final days were shrouded in secrecy, and his government, fractured and desperate, held on to Assad's false promises. On November 28th, Assad assured his commanders in Damascus that Russian military aid was imminent. Even though the rebels were advancing, he urged his forces to hold their positions. But heart of hearts, he knew the truth, that Moscow had already refused to intervene.
Well, leaving the process of fulfilling the duties of the head of state was Assad's personal decision, and everything else is without comment.
By Saturday, December 7th, chaos gripped the capital. Government officials scrambled to organize a speech for Assad. His media advisor, Buthena Shaban, arrived at the presidential residence that night to draft it. But to her surprise, she found the house eerily silent and empty. Just hours earlier, his government learnt that their leader had quietly left the country. His destination? Moscow. Shrouded in secrecy, with not a single chance of mistake, Vladimir Putin arranged the former Syrian president's exile plan, which was tightly wrapped under the rug. His flight was arranged by Russian intelligence and flew without a transponder to avoid detection. Even his younger brother, Maher al-Assad, commander of the elite 4th Armored Division, had no idea. Assad's cousins, Ihab and Iyad Makhlouf, were similarly blindsided. After the former Syrian president banished the country, they fled Damascus by car but were ambushed en route to Lebanon. While Ihab was killed, Iyad was wounded. Heart in hand inside the presidential palace, confusion spiraled into panic. His office manager, including many other aides who thought he was going home, were left stunned. Because little did they know that now no instructions would ever come. By 2 a.m., the regime had unraveled. Soldiers abandoned their posts, his government gave up hope, and the city fell into the hands of the rebel forces. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the group leading the charge, sought to reassure the city's war-weary residents.
Victory and the liberation of the land is not just about breaking chains or raising flags. It is the birth of a nation, the restoration of dignity, and the writing of history.
Assad, once a symbol of unrelenting power, was now a fugitive. His escape was a stark contrast to his larger-than-life image. Russia, his reluctant host, has provided refuge. Yet Assad's future now seems bleak, a secluded life under tight surveillance.